Hello, students. Welcome to the Erikson online module. By now, you should have read the pages 151 to 167 at Barbara Engler's textbook that's concerning Erikson. You also should have gotten the slides. Um, Most of the slides are from our class discussion of the intellectual context of Erikson, especially as a post-Freudian or neo-Freudian, some people would say, and the psychosocial stages of which we have covered the first two. Corresponding to the oral and anal stage of Freud. I also added two more slides. One is a reconceptualization of the Ericksonian stages that I found helpful, and also two hints for a critique of Erikson, mainly that he may not be right in the scientific way, but because his theory makes sense and it is internally consistent, it is therefore helpful. And the second and related issue is that the theory is generative in the sense that it can generate hypotheses, not generative in the other way, which is typical of the seventh stage of his developmental trajectory. But this is for later. You also should have gotten the this paper, which is about a way of evaluating or quantifying Ericksonian theory. So throughout the ages, there were several instruments that were built to test empirically the theory that we spoke about, the psychosocial stages, the idea that the ego is manifesting the human development by growing in its ability to process information in general and social information or relational information in particular. And the instrument that I chose for us to work with is the what is called the PIES, the Psychosocial Inventory of Ego Strength. Now, why would I choose the ego strength? One of the things that I would like to convince you is that if you are about to test somebody's theory, it's good not to be tied up too much to the theory of that person or to that person in particular. So if we're looking at the psychosocial theory of development, we see that there are many different things that we can test for each and every person. For example, we can test if indeed people between 3 and 5 years old, corresponding to the phallic stage of Freud, do have problems of initiative versus guilt. And if people have problems of initiative versus guilt, whether it appears mostly in the 3 to 5 years old, or perhaps it peaks in other times. That's, all are very nice ways to look at. However, the inventory that I chose is inventory of ego strength because this was my logic. Even if Erikson is wrong, still it is worthwhile to estimate and quantify and gauge somebody's ego strength. Even if the theory is wrong, it doesn't make the ego strength go away. These are their ego strength. And then we can ask if indeed the ego strength correspond to the Ericksonian theory. For example, I will show you how to fill out the questionnaire. That's in the next clip with Catalea. And let's say that we find these are the ego capacities or ego strength or ego or virtues, as Erikson called them. In the questionnaire, we could find that Catalea is very low on love. And then we can ask if indeed her most unusual or traumatic development indeed took place between those years that are corresponding to somewhere along the genital stage of Freud, or maybe not. Um, so looking at ego strength could help us evaluate and look in different light at the Eriksonian ideas that we have covered in class and that you have read about. And I have to say, Barbara Engler is doing a remarkable job in explaining Erikson. So if you read the chapter, you are in very good hands. Now, the paper is, of course, a scientific paper. It is meant for psychologists, and it is beyond the scope of this course. So reading it may be difficult per se. But I'm going to go over several key aspects of the of the instrument, several key aspects or key points in the paper itself, and cue you to only what you need to know in order to successfully accomplish the task in this module, which is again evaluating Catalea based on the Eriksonian developmental trajectory in a more objective, standardized, and less objective or impressionistic way.